welcome. My name is Jean. I'll be your host today. I am one of the admissions counselors here at Pacific University. Today's session, we have one of our professors and program coordinators from our education department. So we are super excited to be able to have her come here and present today. Again, if you want to make sure to add in any questions that you have, you can add your questions throughout the presentation, or we can take them all at the end, whatever you feel most comfortable with. You can also have it so that everybody can see the question, or you can have it so that you can send it to me privately, and I'll go ahead and read the questions out loud on your behalf. So without further ado, I'm actually going to go ahead and ask Christy to come on here. Let me see here. Hi, Christy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming in today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So can we start off maybe an introduction of yourself, and then maybe if you can go into talking a little bit about the program, that'd be great.
Sure. As Gina said, I'm Dr. Sellers-Smith. Around these parts, I go by Christy, so everybody's welcome to call me that here. I am the coordinator of the undergraduate education and learning program at Pacific, and I was a special education teacher and school administrator for 16 years before I came to Pacific just 3 years ago. So I spent my time before coming here teaching students. I've taught elementary, middle, and high school. I'm both general education and special education certified, so I've taught both general education curriculum and special education curriculum. And now I work here doing one of my most favorite things, which is getting to know teachers better and helping them feel comfortable in their practice as educators. And then in my spare time, I do a little bit of research too. And most of my research is in the field of disability studies and in equity in the classroom. So I focus a lot on individuals who experience disability, even if those disabilities can't be seen, and how that experience differs from children who maybe follow a normal development curve.
Awesome. Thank you. That's so great to hear. You can talk a little bit about the program. I know we have a few different campuses. We also have a graduate program, lots of different pathways. Can you go into a little bit about kind of the different programs that we are able to offer for our freshman students?
Sure. So we have both undergraduate and graduate programs. Our graduate programs kind of run the gamut of just about anything that you could imagine. We have programs that are for teachers that are already certified, wanting to expand what they know and maybe learn to teach a different area than what they first thought they wanted to teach. And then we have programs designed for teachers or individuals who wish to teach. Maybe they're working as teacher assistants, or maybe they're making a career change, and they've decided they want to pursue a teaching license. In all states across the US, you have to have a license to teach, not just an education degree, but an education degree is a great thing to have for lots of other fields, especially for students looking to go into graduate education in some of the related areas like speech language pathology or occupational therapy or school counseling or school psychology. So at the undergraduate level, we offer programs that I think of it as two tracks. One is you graduate with a degree, a Bachelor's of Arts in Education and Learning, and you don't get a teaching license. And you can use that to do any number of health and human science professions, as well as go on to graduate school. It does make students very attractive graduate candidates for a number of programs. For example, we have a really well-known program in communication sciences and disorders at Pacific for people who want to be speech language pathologists. And they tell me all the time that their favorite candidates are the ones who come in with education degrees. They learn a lot about working with different kinds of people, and that's really highly valued. It's valued in human resources. It's valued in all kinds of businesses because they know that you've learned how to work with people and you understand how people learn. The other option is that you can get a teaching license by the time you finish your bachelor's degree at Pacific, which is a really big deal and a really great thing. It means that the day you leave Pacific, you are qualified to teach in a classroom and you have a built-in job with built-in benefits the moment that you leave the university. So on our Forest Grove campus, and we do have 3 campuses where we offer programs. I'll mention those in just a moment. Our most popular option is for students to pursue a teaching license by the time that they graduate. And we offer licensure in general education or special education. You can pick either one. And then within general education, you can focus on early learners. And so it's technically the license is kindergarten through, it's actually pre-K through 8th grade. And then we also, in special education, that license is pre-K through 12th grade. So you can teach any grade. We also offer what we call a single subject license. And that license is designed around people who know they want to teach high school. So they know they only want to teach math, or they only want to teach PE and health, or they only want to teach Spanish. We offer all of those things, and we call that the single subject license. So you can pick your single subject to become licensed in. And we encourage that license for individuals who know they want to teach high school, or maybe they like middle school, but they know they never ever want to teach elementary school. Our general education, what we call multiple subjects license, is geared for the elementary educator or middle school teachers who know they never ever want to go to high school. Those middle grades are kind of an overlap between the certificates. You can technically do either one, and we spend a lot of time getting to know our students, so we know how to help them pick the right one. Besides that, I think the notable things are that we offer a number of endorsements, certificates, and specializations at Pacific in the College of Ed. A lot of our students will attempt to pursue the Teaching English as a Second Language endorsement, and it is possible to also get that endorsement by the time you finish your bachelor's degree, in addition to your initial teaching license. We also offer reading intervention specialist endorsements, and we offer an endorsement in technology teaching. And then we have a new dyslexia certificate program that's really specific to the needs of Oregon schools. And we also have a number of just special certificates you can earn in a content area. So say you just want to go deeper, you're teaching math, but maybe you want to teach upper level math. And so we have certificates that help you move your teaching skills up to focus on, instead of general math, maybe Calc 1, Calc 2, AP Calc, and things like that.
Awesome. That's so great. I didn't know we have so many different types of certifications. I only knew of like 2 or 3 off the top of my head. So this is amazing to hear all the different kind of companies that students can go into. We did get a couple of questions, and these were some of the questions that came in through registration. So we do have a couple families who are registered but can't make it to the live session, and they'll come to our kind of recorded session. So I'm just going to go ahead and read those questions that they left for us here. One of the questions that came in, and this is actually a very popular question, is what types of internships are there for students who are in education?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. The first thing that comes to my mind is we have the early learning community on our campus at Pacific, which is on the bottom level, what we call the garden level of Berglund Hall, where our education programs are located. That is an actual licensed school that works with students between 3 years of age and 3rd grade. And so our students are allowed to intern at that location. It's a very sought after location. We focus a lot on environmental education and on ecological education. And so it's a pretty magical place. When you come once, it's somewhere you never forget when you look at what those students get to do. Very small class sizes, lots of focus on outdoors and the ways that students can use what's in the world around them to learn different concepts. Then we also partner with all of the school districts in our area. So all of our students, embedded within our courses, we make sure that there's internship opportunities. So as you take education courses, you're going to be asked to do things like go to a school, and we help you find those. We don't just throw you to the wolves, but go to a school and sit down and observe for this, or meet with this teacher and talk about something. And for the next week, you have an enduring assignment where you're actually in that school working with the teacher to learn about something. It could be curriculum focused. It could be about classroom arrangement and classroom behavior management. So there's a lot of options there. Then you will also complete what's known as field experience if you're pursuing a license when you're at Pacific as an undergrad. And that is an entire semester. Generally, it is fall of your final year, and you will spend the entire semester, in addition to the couple of classes you're taking, logging hours in a local school. And we pair you with the area that you're interested in. So maybe that's high school, maybe that's a middle school, maybe it's elementary. We try to get you the grade that you really want. We have schools in the area that are dual language schools. So we have a lot of our students that are interested in working at a dual language elementary school, for example. We have charter schools in the area that we partner with and private schools. So we have our students complete their field experience hours. It's about 90 hours there during that time. And then your final semester at Pacific, you also student teach, and you do not take, well, I won't say do not, never say do not, right? Our preference is that you take no other classes. So with good advisement, and that happens in our department frequently, we know our students very well. We help you get through all of your coursework except for one class that you take at the same time you take student teaching. And your whole final semester at Pacific, you're student teaching alongside a master teacher that has at least a master's degree and at least 5 years of experience in the classroom post-master's degree. And so you're spending time with that teacher, learning what they do, why they do it, everything from meetings in the morning before school to planning your lesson plans to bus duty in the afternoon, or whatever it is that teachers are expected to do at that school. And you do that full time, just like it's almost a real job, your entire final semester. And it's during that semester that you're completing your portfolio and really starting to apply all of the things that you've learned in your classes, pulling from all of those experiences you had in those classes where you saw it first. And now you're getting the opportunity to try it with an expert right beside you.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity, just to have somebody who's just so seasoned to kind of help you through that. I can't imagine how much they'd be learning within that one semester there. So one of the other questions that we get is, my daughter is interested in education, but has an interest in a few different concentrations. How does she know which would be the best fit, and how do they decide?
Yeah, so that's a great question. One of the beauties of a liberal arts university in the first place is that you get that breadth of coursework as an undergraduate. And that really gives a lot of students, oh gosh, I thought I loved biology, but I got into biology and maybe I don't love it as much. Maybe I'm a little more chemistry focused. Or, hey, I really thought I wanted to be a high school teacher. And then I was in, Christy's class and she made me go to this elementary school and I really wasn't sure because, those kids are little and they make a lot of noise. And then I got there and they were so fun. And I realized, hey, elementary would be great for me. So the combination of the breadth of classes in the liberal arts curriculum, plus the classes we build in that all education and learning majors take, help you understand the nuances and differences between elementary, middle, high school, and then the issues that arise with curriculum, whether it's a specific content area or whether it's curriculum that's focused on a very specific type of learner. So, I would say that I haven't had a student yet who felt like they got to the end and wasn't sure that they knew they were in the right area. If they happen to student teach in like elementary grades or in special education, they also will student teach in 2 different classrooms during that final semester. So if you're elementary, you might get a kindergarten classroom and a 4th grade classroom, even though you want to do 4th grade, right? Or you think because we want to make sure, because your license covers all of it. So we want to make sure you have the skills to do all of it when you leave. So it's the combination of those field experiences, that breadth of coursework at the liberal arts core that we offer at Pacific, plus the things you're getting in your foundational education courses within the College of Ed, because there's a number of those that you take as well before you ever get to those final stages where you're student teaching and responsible for knowing calculus if you're going to teach.
That's also, so I have another question that's kind of related to that. It's a follow-up, I believe. For a student that wants to do the communication and speech disorders graduate program, but is not interested in working in schools, and therefore not planning on seeking education as an undergrad degree, what's the timeline for students to contact advisors within the education department for a graduate program?
So there's a couple of ways that this can go. If you are, and if I understood the question, if they're not going to be maybe they want to be an ed major and then go into, or they do not want to be an ed major at all?
It sounds like they're not interested in working in schools, and so they don't want to go into an ed major, but looking into the communication and speech and disorders graduate program.
Sure. So we have a number of students in that situation, and I actually serve as most of those students' advisor at Pacific. And one of the things that's really popular is that we do have a minor in communication sciences and disorders. So we do actually have a lot of students who major in education because of the breadth of coursework and the way that it looks on their transcript when they apply, but then also minor in communication sciences and disorders. And so the other option is if they know they want to work in a hospital setting, or maybe they want to work, they may end up deciding that something that's a little more public health focused is the better undergraduate major. And so what happens is when you declare your major, which you do during your sophomore year at Pacific, you're paired with an advisor who knows something about what it is you want to do. And if at any time before then you feel like you want to meet with somebody in another department, that's perfectly okay. Communication Sciences and Disorders is within the College of Education, and they have a number of faculty that will meet with students anytime to be talking to them about what to do as an undergrad, so they're very prepared for what application to a program in Communication Sciences and Disorders looks like. A lot of times they're going to send you back to me and say, talk to Christy about the Ed and Learning major because we really like it, but here's some other folks in other departments if for some reason that's not where you want to go. You can totally do CSD and work in a number of fields, just like you can do an education degree and work in a number of fields.
Awesome, thank you. So I hope that kind of helped clear that question, because I know we get that a lot actually. So the next question that I get is, how much time do you believe your average student spends studying and doing assignments during the week? Because I know time management is probably every college student's largest, biggest enemy there.
Yes, I like to tell everyone I have an 18-year-old at home myself. So as we're working on those time management skills, I know that's always been a big question that I get asked by my own kids a lot. So first of all, of course, it depends on how many classes you take, right? What's different about college from high school is that your high school counselors would have told you, you take this many classes, right? You have this many periods in a day, so you have that many classes. College can be a little different. We're looking at a number of credit hours that you take. And when you take that number of credit hours, classes count for different amounts of credit hours. So some students may be taking 5, some may be taking 4, some may be taking 7, depends on that credit. So the amount of credit, you could say, is directly tied to how much extra time outside of class you're going to be spending doing assignments. If I had to guess, for a student that was taking 15 hours worth of credit, for that student, I would guess that they spend, think about a couple of hours a day per class doing work. And that's everything. That may be reading over something that you were given, or working on a project, or interacting with your peers in on a Discord server, in a chat room that your professor has set up. So it's kind of a wide range of activities. It's not just reading and writing, so to speak. We definitely don't do a lot of worksheet kind of thing. Really like for things to be very experiential, especially in the College of Ed.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. So what research opportunities are available for undergrads through the department?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Couple of things. One is that for students who do not pursue the teaching license by the time they graduate, they will complete a capstone project at the end, which is a research project related to something in education, and they spend an entire year working on that project under the guidance of faculty. Now, there are lots of other research opportunities built in, and then also a kind of shortened version of that if you are doing the license. And the reason why it's shortened is because you have to do that student teaching and a massive video portfolio. And it sounds horrible, but it's actually a lot of fun. Our students really think that it's fun to go through the process and look at their own learning and the way that mirrors what happens in a classroom. So in addition to those things, because that's something every student's going to have in their experience in the College of Ed at Pacific, in addition to those things, there are faculty members who are always looking for students who want to participate in research opportunities. It may be helping to review literature. It may be helping with focus groups or survey distribution. Sometimes there are positions within the College of Education for graduate student assistants or undergraduate student assistants, which are research focused. I had one last year, actually. I had gotten a grant to focus on something, and I was able to hire a student who did some work for me, like 5 hours a week. It wasn't anything significant, but the student really enjoyed being able to learn, and I was able to give them a little extra money to have in their pocket when they went out to have fun. So I would say that, and then I would just add that research is something we really appreciate and engage in as faculty members all the time. So if you have a research interest, you can always find a faculty member that is interested in the same thing or something closely related, set up an appointment and talk with them, and your advisor can help you identify those people. And I have never, ever, ever had any faculty member say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have a way you can help me. More than anything, we would jump up and down and be so excited to have students who wanted to engage in the research process with us. So we would love that.
Yeah. Thank you. I know you kind of touched a little bit about the Forest Grove campus prior, and I know we have an ELC on campus, an early learning center. Could you go into a little bit of detail about that? I know a lot of people see the chalk work on the sidewalk, all the building wars that they're going through.
Sure.
Just kind of explain what that school is like.
Yeah. So I'll explain it from the perspective of walking into it. One of my favorite things about the ELC is to watch the independence level of students, regardless of whether they're 3 years old or 7 years old, that are at that school. And it is an early learning community, so it is focused on early childhood specifically. And so everything from all students participate in what needs to happen to make the school and the classroom run well. But really what's powerful to me is watching the ways that they engage with what goes on around them. So our playground, if you will, looks very different than a traditional playground. While we do have some climbing equipment and a tire swing kind of thing over to one side, we also have a lot of different, think of it as centers set up outside where students can engage with nature and sound. So we have musical instruments that are actually installed outside that work on reverberation and sound and the ways that vibration make noise. And students, they're not off limits. Like they're not, oh, don't touch that instrument, it's big. So our students actually get to run up. And when I say our students, I don't mean our college students. I mean our 3-year-old to 3rd graders. And they're up there with mallets beating on it. And then usually we have assistants around the playground who are talking about, what is that you're hearing? And that hearing comes from a wave. And here's what a sound wave looks like. And here's what it feels like. And here's the ways that waves work in other parts of the world. And so it's just this beautiful experiential learning place where we're giving students a lot of opportunity to really help maybe co-construct what they know. And that's something that's really important in early childhood education. We have just a handful of classrooms. I don't know how many we have coming up this next year, to be honest, off the top of my head. If I had to guess, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm thinking about the building, 5 to 7 classrooms usually. And that includes an extra program we have for younger siblings of students where we allow them to come 1 day a week and interact with each other and build socialization. Yeah, so it's always fun when I'm teaching in the room next door to there and some 2-year-old like looks in my classroom window and my grades and all my students. But they're part of our community and we love it. They're in our building and they spend time with us. And that's what you do as teachers. You learn how to work with smaller people, right? Mm-hmm. So having them come in my classroom to visit sometimes is a lot of fun for me and my students. It certainly brightens the day. Yeah, so the ELC is a beautiful place. It's something that I always struggle to really describe, but I tell people that when I came to interview at Pacific, it was definitely one of the standouts for me and one of the things that let me know that I was in the right place in a college of education that was really about learning and about the experience that the classroom student has. And we extend that as faculty to our students. We want your experience to be in our classrooms, what we want to see you create for your students when you go and have your own classrooms.
I love that so much. I remember visiting my brother in one of his little classrooms when I was younger too. So I know that's a huge kind of experience that a lot of the younger kids, you know, like have an older sibling at school and I'm not in school yet. What do they do during the daytime? So,
and in the older students, just to add, Gina, we have a great relationship with Forest Grove High School, for example, and we have a number of students who go over and participate in activities there, whether it's sports related or whether it's academics related. So we have a number of students who go over and help high school students who offer tutorial. We have a teacher club on campus called Teacher Alliance, and they are very community focused now and doing a lot of volunteer work with the schools within the community. And a number of them are high school focused teachers who really enjoy going into the high school and working with high school students in how they should apply to college, or what it looks like to get into a job training program that maybe they're interested in. And then we do the same thing too for candidates interested in special education. We have a really strong unified sports program where our within our community, students that are in our K-12 system that have different disabilities come together for intramural sports programs. And a lot of our students are the volunteers who help coach. So I have students that coach, for example, soccer for them and basketball for them, and say that it's one of the most valuable experiences that they have while they're a student.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can already think of a couple of students who are involved in that and working, helping at Forest Grove High School. And I'm glad you mentioned the Teachers Alliance, because that was the other question that came in is what are there clubs for the education major and what do they do? So could you explain just a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I'm super proud of Teachers Alliance. I'm actually the club sponsor, so I could talk to you about it all day. It was started by our students who felt like they had a number of clubs focused on everything from equestrian events to board games. And they said, but we want an education club. Like, we love education and want to talk about things and look at ways we can help schools in our community. And so they came together, and I always joke with them, these students that I didn't even know showed up at my door and they were like, we want to start this education club. So we started working on that. And so they're in their second year as an official, they have official club acknowledgement by Pacific. And so they've done a number of things. So one of the things that they focus on is bringing in speakers to talk about topics related to education that they all want to hear about. Usually it's things they hear about in a class and they want to go deeper in that area. So they find an expert to come in and talk. Sometimes it's specific faculty, sometimes it's somebody outside in the community. They also engage in a number of opportunities off campus. Last year, for example, myself and I want to say we had 8 or 9 students, we went up to Seattle to the Northwest Teachers for Social Justice Conference. And we were all there together learning from other teachers in the field about ways that they focus on different topics related to equity and social justice in the classroom. So we were able to get funding. All of those students got to go. It was covered by the education budget, and the Dean of the College of Ed helped me pick up a few extra things that wouldn't fit in the budget. And all of the students and I were able to go up and enjoy that conference together. So they take trips, they create community service activities. They have gone and helped teachers set up their classroom when they're new teachers to the field. They've gone in and made classroom materials. They have, I'm trying to think about one of the other things that they did. Well, the sidewalk chalk that Forest Grove does, they really got out there and enjoyed drawing squares about education and then inviting students to come look at it and talk about their school experiences. So they've helped with Halloween activities. They did a book drive to donate books that were written in Spanish to a dual language elementary school that's in, not in Forest Grove, but in a neighboring community where they were trying to start up a new library. And most of the books they had were written in English, but most of their students were students who, or at least a high percentage of their students, spoke Spanish as their primary language at home. So it was nice for us to be able to get the community involved in collecting books to create a really stellar library for those students.
That is awesome. You make me miss the classroom. I used to teach and I stopped teaching, but now I definitely miss the classroom after.
I'll take you back.
So the next question that we are getting, it's more kind of related to everything that's happening right now with the pandemic. And I know some of the students are asking about what are the changes coming to Pacific, especially because things are experiential and with us having to social distance, that probably changes a couple things. Not sure how far you've gotten in there. I know we haven't even touched fall yet. We're still trying to finish up summer here, but does of education have anything set up for kind of the pandemic that's happening?
So a couple of things. We have partnered with and found some virtual opportunities for students to observe classrooms around the world, actually, to see what is happening in classrooms and work with faculty and other students. We've tried to create some opportunities for them to engage with teachers in the field, to ask questions and talk about maybe things they had hoped they would experience. But on top of that, when schools moved to distance learning this spring, our students still student taught. They student taught using whatever model it was that the classroom that they were assigned to had to use. And so for some, that was initially a little bit of a partial experience. And then when things moved to complete quarantine, or for a little while, shelter in place, I guess, if you want to say, we had students who were still teaching. And one of the most beautiful, it was definitely like everyone else in every other major and every other walk of life, not what any of us were expecting for the spring. We still continue to meet with them using the Zoom software on a regular basis. We were able to get our students involved in some other opportunities that they wouldn't have gotten. A number of them came out DIBELS certified, which is a language and literacy program that's used in a lot of schools for assessing students' ability to read and moving them forward. It's a usually very expensive program. We were able to put our students in those programs from a distance learning. And then we were also, we were able to create opportunities just for our students to meet with us as faculty and still talk about the problems that were happening, the problems of practice, if you will, in the virtual environment. The most beautiful thing that came out of it, I can think of two of my students who did their senior capstone project on looking at distance learning and how it supported students with varying learning needs. And for them, I think they would both tell you that it certainly wasn't what they thought they were going to be doing in the spring. Both of them were able to really think about the context of the schools they were in and really kind of interrogate the challenges of distance learning, but talk about the places where it also brought about some really interesting opportunities that engaged students in ways that they didn't expect. And those two students, that senior capstone project is actually in the final stages of being submitted for an actual publication, even though they're just undergrads who just graduated.
That's so awesome.
They really enjoyed looking at the ways that distance learning supported students. And they both told me right as they graduated, one of them wrote me a little note and said, I know this isn't how we thought everything would go, but depending on how it continues to go, or whether or not I'm ever asked to work with students virtually, I feel like I got great experiences in the classroom and the opportunity to learn how to do it through the computer if I'm ever faced with that. So we are definitely looking at ways to create those. I teach a class in assistive technology, for example. Ordinarily, my students get to come in and interact with eye gaze technology. So they learn how to actually sit in front of a computer, that the pupils of their eyes work as their mouse, and they can control the entire computer by just looking at the screen.
Wow.
And so obviously, one of the things that we're doing is I will set up some social distance stations for students to sign up and come in one at a time to experience that equipment. But the other thing I'm doing for students who aren't comfortable with that right now is I'm going to wear, we'll call it a GoPro. It's not a GoPro, but people know what I mean. Right? I'm going to wear a camera and interact with some of the technology and let them be there with me, watching me do it. So that's a little harder with the eye gaze part, but we still have lots of other equipment that we explore in that class of ways that we can make learning accessible. And so the students are going to get to experience it through me as I wear a camera and as I walk around and interact with different types of technology that was created for all kinds of learners. So that's just one example.
That's awesome. That's definitely amazing. And the follow-up question that I got to that was, any advice that you would give to students who are doing the online learning? I know for a lot of our students, they told me it was a big adjustment, and for some students, it was kind of a negative effect on them in terms of not being able to be in the classroom. And so it's kind of been a tough semester for a lot of our incoming students.
Sure.
So do you have any advice for these students?
One of the things I like to remind everybody, and this is about K-12 teaching and also about the college experience, is that what we experienced in the spring was not what online, virtual, distance, hybrid learning really looks like. That was emergency mode. That was us reacting to the way things were going. And so there were a lot of things not built into courses because, just like K-12 teachers, faculty were also trying to figure out how we take everything we've always done and change it to a different format so that we can help our students continue to move forward and graduate on time and meet their own goals, but make sure that we get it to them without them having to stop, right? So we were taking what we do and changing it. A lot of us have spent time this summer focusing on what are the ways in the event that we have to make classes online ever again, how do you create a stronger learning environment for students where it's more engaging and more exciting? I'll be honest, one of the things that I can think of that students should do is whatever learning management system is used. So Moodle, Google Classroom, for example, those are some things people may be familiar with. Making sure that they log on every single day or setting up notifications so that when their professor post something, it's automatically sent to their email. That's just something that keeps you connected to the course and allows you to have a dialogue even when you're not like sitting there, for example. So I know some students felt like they weren't sure how to know everything that was going on, but I also found that those students weren't logging into the learning management system every day. They were only showing up to look at it when they were in class. And so that helped them continue to pace what they should be doing on the days between. The other thing is, think about building community the same way you would on a Instagram page or a Facebook group. You know, interact with your peers, ask them questions, use it as a chat space. Your faculty expect you to do that. And by expect, meaning we want you to do that. We want you to build community with your classmates, even if you're in a situation where you can't be face-to-face. I use Discord servers sometimes. Some of the students may know what that is, especially if they're gamers and they like those things. So I've created some spaces where in different topics, students are able to connect with each other and chat more in what feels like a natural back and forth kind of situation. But we have that built into Moodle too. Discord is just something that, as I said, I have an 18-year-old, so I get the inside scoop on some of the technology that some really find engaging. And so I've played with Discord servers and other ways that students can interact and not feel like it's just about me. It's not just about asking your faculty person questions, but it's about asking your peers questions and encouraging learning from each other in whatever space faculty creates for you. So
awesome, thank you.
Yeah,
that's really good advice. We repeat it to our students until we're red in the face to check your email. Check your email. So just make sure that the students are logging into these platforms. Moodle is going to be something that they'll be using heavily at Pacific University. So definitely Moodle and email are the two things that you want to have your students set up on their phone, have a notification pop up. Just this morning I had a student text me and say, hey Gina, I thought we were supposed to get a move-in time. I was like, yeah, you got to check your email and actually sign up for it. So these things that the students kind of tend to miss, it's good to try to get them into the habit before they get to campus.
And the tip, like I said, there's tips and tricks. Don't be afraid to ask a faculty member those questions too. Like, what can I do to be successful in this environment in your class? Because we all have different things we expect, right? And different things we want to see happen. And I teach my students, I try, in our grad program, I already teach online a little bit. So I already had kind of some tools in my toolbox, so to speak. I spent some time talking with students and then all of my advisees about, here are some tips and tricks that make things. So maybe you don't love to set up your email, but did you know that there's a Moodle app? And did you know you can set up notifications so it pops up on your phone? So just teaching things like that uses the technology that students are most comfortable with is also, something you should encourage. You should always encourage them just to ask the faculty and to think about what are they comfortable with and how can they make it work for them in their own organizational, sort of setup that they've created for themselves.
Perfect. And I think we're winding down on our questions. The last question I have for you here is, what does a typical advising appointment look like? I know you talked about having advisees and kind of sitting down and helping them go through some of the different kind of fits, finding a right fit for them. Can you talk about what like a typical maybe appointment looks like? And maybe if you can walk through everything, like how it's set up and how you get appointed an advisor in the first place.
Yeah. So the number one thing is you'll be assigned an advisor when you come to Pacific and you'll meet with that person. And if for any reason you feel like they're not a good match, or maybe you were just really wanting to meet with somebody in philosophy, but you've got somebody in education, don't be afraid to tell them that. We want to help you find the right match. And so you'll be assigned an advisor. You'll meet with someone this summer. Matter of fact, I'll be meeting with students tomorrow to help them register for their classes. And then you will meet with, out of that, you'll get assigned an advisor. In the fall semester, usually around October, you'll meet with your advisor. And that meeting is to start planning what happens in the spring. We register and advise and plan for semesters one semester at a time. So every advisor does it a little differently. I'll talk about how I do it. I usually create a way for students to access my calendar. So I use a software called Calendly, and Calendly is basically lets them pick their own advisement appointment. So I map out everything where I'm available, and I'll meet with them virtually or in person. In my office, there's candy, comfy chairs, and coffee, so the students tend to really like to come hang out. So we sit down together and we talk about, I like to start with, what are your goals? What is it you want to do one day? Let's talk about that first. And then I look at what's called a program evaluation at Pacific, which tells me every course you've taken, or every course where you brought in AP credit, or maybe where you did a community college course, and I can see what you have left. And I help students look at those categories and find the classes that are most interesting that meet those requirements. That's before your core is done. When we're finished with that, we start really focusing in on, do you want a license if you're an ed major, right? Do you want a license by the time you graduate or not? And if you do, here's what the options look like within that license. And here's when those courses are offered. And we really sit down and we look at times, and we look at interest, and we look at, what else did you want to take? Did you want to be, I don't know, a theater minor as well? Maybe that's something that you're really interested in. And so we look at all the options that fit around those theater courses that you want to do. So we meet face-to-face. For my students, this spring it was virtual. So we'll sit together, talk about it, plan it. And I have students, I call it their shopping cart. That's not an official term, but they have pick the classes they want. And all of this happens before your registration time ticket. Right?
Oh, wow.
So you're sitting down and talking with me about what you want to do. And then there's a date and time the university gives you that you're allowed to log in and actually register for your courses. And so we put them in your shopping cart. This is my little trick, so that when it's your time, all you have to do is go in and go submit. And when that happens, you get ahead of all the other students who are given that same time, right? To get all those classes that you want.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it works. I mean, I spend a lot of time listening to my students talk about, hey, I want to be an elementary teacher. But the thing that I really love is that I'm really into art, and I think that maybe even one day I want to explore being an art teacher. And so I use some of my advising time to sit down and say, here's what art teacher programs look like at the graduate level. And actually, here's some options at Pacific, because we also will allow you to be certified in art and in theater and things like that. So we talk about that. We plan those courses. I actually will help my students plan out the rest of their time. So a lot of times it's not just the next semester. It's here's what you got to register for, but here's tentatively what you can expect it to look like the next 2 or 3 semesters. So they just start to get a sense of where there's extra wiggle room in their schedule for them to do all the fun things that they want to do. At Pacific, it's kind of, I like to think about it in thirds. It's not quite thirds, but a third of your core, a third of your major, and a third of something else. Just what you want to do. Maybe it's another major, maybe it's a minor, maybe it's just classes that you thought would be great. Maybe you want to take ceramics and photography. So it's where you fit those things in. And we just talk a lot about that. We talk also about other things that face students. What does your balance look like right now? Are you being involved in athletics or outdoor activities? Is there something that you really wish you had time for? And so I field all kinds of questions with my students. And then at the end, they also know they can set up an appointment with me anytime to talk about things, even if it's not during that advisement window where we're very course focused, right?
Okay. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chrissy. This was super helpful for the families, and not just the families, but for us admissions as well. We're very excited, and again, I'm kind of jealous that I'm not in the classroom anymore. I do miss it after talking with you. So
come on down anytime. We'll find you.
Do it. Thank you so much again. And again, this is going to be posted on our YouTube channel. I believe we'll send out a link tomorrow. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. And Christy, would you be happy to take any maybe emails?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome, awesome. So if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and email Christy as well. And let me see if I actually have I think I have your email address here. And I can just go ahead and copy and paste. So I'm going to, whoops, apparently having some issues here. Nope. Christy, do you have your email address for some reason?
Yeah, I can type it in the chat if you'd like.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Just watch all those S's in my name. They get a little
Awesome. So feel free to email Christy if you guys have any questions. This is super informative. We, again, appreciate your time with us today. Thank you so much. And can't wait to see everybody in the fall. I know it's a lot of stuff has been happening, so hopefully we'll be able to see everybody. Please stay healthy. Next week, we do have a professor from the chemistry department coming to share a little bit about his department, so students who are interested in chemistry or pharmacy, that's the pathway to go. And the week after is actually going to be our final session. We're going to do a little handoff of Lunch with the Boxa series to the rest of campus. And so we are winding down. It is already July 23rd. I can't believe it. So yeah, I know. Everybody, please take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Bye.